morning, everybody. It's time for another delicious edition of Texas Oatmeal, and today on the channel we're taking the dash apart. That's right. So got the dash all finished up the other day and it's looking amazing. Look at that. Of course, I walked out in the sun just a minute ago to see what kind of glare I would get off of it. There's some glare, so depending on the angle of the sun, if I'm driving away from it and it's down low behind me, it could be a problem. So we'll see how that goes long term. I don't know. So wait, if anybody's thinking about doing this, wait until I've had some time with this to see what kind of glare you get off the sun, to see if it's a problem before you do your own. If you're seeing this and it's been posted months and months down the road, find my video somewhere in the future that I'm going to make about the long term, about my experience that I've had off of this, and make sure that it was something I was happy with, because it could be terrible. And if it is, I'm going to wrap this thing in, you know, like a matte silver, or maybe get a brushed aluminum wrap or something, which would have been smart to do from the beginning, because that would have been pretty easy and probably actually less time consuming than what I actually did. So for those of you that think I should have wrapped it, you're right, I probably should have. But anyways, I'm going to install this now and get the dash torn apart, and this video is going to show you how that's done. So for everybody that's always wondered about how hard it is to take the dash apart, you're about to find out. I'm going to set this on the roll bar here and do a little time lapse of me taking this apart, which is it's not quick. Okay, here goes. Okay, so after you have gotten to this point and realized that you cannot take the dash off completely without taking everything else off, because some of this wiring goes way too far inside here. Like this one's not too big a deal, because I probably could have figured out how to get all the way back to this, and you know, figured this out. It's got electrical tape around it though, so it doesn't just come off easily because it's taped. And then this little guy, you can't get to this little clip on it without reaching in here. And then some of these dash gauges, like this one for instance, goes all the way back into here. So thanks, Vanderhall, this makes sense. Like that's what we want to do to take this off, is to fish this one all the way back into there. So that's fun. So that's where I'm at. I'm not going to waste time showing you every little detail, because yeah, you have to take all of this apart to get it done. So if you're taking your dash apart, understand that it's going to be literally take the whole front end off to be able to get to everything. Be very careful with your glass, of course, because you know they do break right here. Luckily I've never broken mine, but I dang sure would be careful. Okay, so I'm going to keep going and get this swapped out and show you any other things along the way. Of course, the heater control, everybody says you have to unhook it from underneath the dash, which I guess I'm going to do, because I mean, you should be able to get this knob off of here and unthread that nut the rest of the way, but I don't know what's worse, either getting under there and unhooking it, or unhooking it here. And I probably am not going to hook mine back up, because I don't ever use it. I always leave it out, because I want the heat on. I turn the fan on and run the heat. So I don't want to open and close it for any reason. Like, I'm not trying to get air running through there that's not heat ever. Okay, just a little tech tip to get this plug that was right here plugged in. That goes to your, if you follow that around here, that goes all the way up to your speedometer gauge. You got to get that out of there, and it's routed through this all the way down through under this wire loom junk. And to get that out of there, this is actually split because of course there's no getting it out of this mount and bracket. That mine's severely bent, but you can pull this away from all this, and that gives you enough clearance to, you know, fish it out of there this way, right? So I pulled it out through there like that. So that's the same way it would go back in, right? That's the way it came out. Also, so there's this one white wire that goes to its own white plug, right? The rest of this looks to be pretty universal. Like all these small plugs all look like they're just like, you know, the lighting or something for each gauge. So there's quite a few of those. I went ahead and labeled them with just some electrical tape so that I wouldn't have to try to remember which one plugs in where. Again, they're probably universal. You probably just, if it's that kind of plug it into that. And they're just wired up in series for these gauges for lighting and stuff. But just to be safe, I went ahead and labeled each one just because, you know, why not? So now this is pretty much ready to come out, except for, of course, the heater cable. The dreaded heater cable. And just like that, your dash is out of your car. I mean, it's just so simple, you know? So I started on this probably an hour ago. Let's see. Yeah, basically an hour ago, because my Thursday video went live at 10, and it was a few minutes before 10 when I started this. So it takes about an hour-ish, maybe quicker once you know what you're doing and what to look for. But yeah, it takes that long to get the dash out of the car, and then they've got to transfer all that over. But of course, that's really not too big a deal. Once it's out of here, I mean, it's just, you know, what, the 4 screws that hold the gauge pod in for here, and then undoing all those little nuts to get all the little rings off. Of course, I'm gonna have to remake all my little fancy labels that I made, but that's part of the fun. It's not a horrible experience to do this, but it's definitely difficult. One of the more difficult things I've done, other than the stupid downpipe that barely fits out the side of this thing. But yeah, not horrible. Definitely worth it in the end because it's gonna look so cool. But yeah, anyways, I'll get back to it. Okay, so at this point, this is where I'm at. Looks pretty good. I went ahead and put this trim ring back on here. I've seen some people that run just the gauge into the dash, which I really like, except that's usually, or actually I've only seen it on dashes that are wood, and I believe they just don't have these holes here, right, to hold this trim ring on. So when you put this in, it's a real clean install. Without the ring, you still got the holes, and I mean, you can put the bolts back in there, but it looked kind of goofy. I did a with and without picture. Same thing on this guy. And so I decided 2 things: that I'd put it back in because I think it looks better in my opinion, and 2, like on this, I mean, this looks more like an aviation style gauge anyways, so I think that's appropriate for the theme of the theme of my Vanderhall anyways. So this is what I went with. So this is where I'm at right now. I painted all these little hoop things or whatever just in a semi-gloss. I probably should have gone flat to match this, but I had some semi-gloss and I want to have to go out and get any paint. So I did the semi-gloss to put into here because I wanted to contrast between obviously the silver panel now and these. So I think that's gonna look awesome. Yeah, and I'm waiting on, I've got a new little ignition plate that is coming from Russ Duval to go here. So really I probably should wait for it to put all this back together, but I'm not going to because I'd rather get it back together. And I know now how to get this on and off without destroying the entire dash to get to it. So I'm gonna do that, throw this back on. Glove box cover, I'm also gonna get a new one. It's on the way as well. So that'll be nice. Still gonna go with black on it because, again, I want the contrast, I think. Might even wrap it in carbon fiber. Ooh, maybe I should take those trim rings back off and do them in carbon fiber to do all of this in carbon fiber. That's a good idea. So actually all this I just put together now, I'm gonna take it back apart and wrap it in carbon fiber. Okay, so I made myself a carbon fiber panel, right? Instead of just the black piece that was on here. So this is just, you know, fake carbon fiber, high gloss vinyl. And I didn't want to use the double thick, like the stock piece that was on here, right? Where it's like the back panel, some standoffs, the other panel that's just like this, and then the gauges. I didn't want that. I wanted a more flush look. So I went with this. The problem is it sets your gauges so far back behind the dash that when you go to put this all in, it hits on this. So I made myself a little Sharpie line just to give myself a little bit of a guide to figure out how much I need to shave. So all this little dust you see here, that's metal shavings that, you know, I covered up most of it with, you know, what I could, and got a little extra carpet down there to cover all that. Anyway, so I've got some cleaning up to do with the vacuum, but you have to shave this a little bit. I mean, if they just made it a little bit bigger, and we're talking like maybe 2 millimeters, I shaved off here, here, and here, right, to make the rings that hold the back of the gauges on. So you have to make those rings that hold the gauge in along the back side, those retaining rings. They just don't clear the hole in the frame. So anyways, I dremeled that all down. Took several of these little Dremel discs that I had. I mean, it was eating them up pretty quick. So I went through quite a bit of those. That one's still good. This one's done. But yeah, I went through all those. Went through all these little Dremel discs trying to do that. I mean, it ate these things up in seconds. So it took that many of them. So it took 6 of them. To get that little bit of material shaved off of there, but it's going to totally be worth it. I already test fit it and it fits in there nice and flush and looks amazing. And then I noticed there's a little bit of a curve to this dash, and I don't know if it's supposed to be there or not, but it is. So I thought that was interesting. You know, maybe it's supposed to curve in a little bit. I would think this should be pretty straight, but it definitely has a curve here. And I mean, it's not terrible, but it's a little weird. I didn't notice it before. Not that it matters. I mean, you don't push this in. You attach here and here, and there's just a little gap there, and so it looks flush from the outside, but there's definitely a curve to this part of the dash. I don't know, probably nothing, but so. Anyway, so I'm gonna get the dash put back in. Actually, I'm gonna clean all this up with the shop vac real quick, and then get to putting this thing back in. Just got to put it all back together. Okay, I won't bore you with the reinstall because it all goes back together the same way it came out. And we'll be back in 3, 2. Also, another problem you're going to run into is now that this is just the material and doesn't have any of the vinyl on it, the Wet Sounds little module thing or whatever, when that collar tightens all the way down, there's a little bit of play in the module. So I had this real thin double-sided tape that I just peeled off one side. It was a double-sided tape disc that I had for like a GoPro mount, and I cut it out so that it would go around this. It's actually got a split in it so that you can get it all the way around here. And I stuck just one side of it down, and then the little material on it to keep it from being sticky on one side still on there, and then I tightened this down, and it was the perfect amount to get rid of that little bit of play without forcing this completely down and making it so tight you couldn't get back off. Okay, so it's actually the next day, because I didn't get this done because I wanted to make sure everything cured and was super perfect before I reinstalled everything. And I didn't technically reinstall everything, as you can see by there's no hood and no windshield And really I just set this on here. But this is how it all turned out. Pretty nice, except now I hate my glove box cover because you didn't really see all the imperfections on the edges and stuff when it was all against the black. So I'm gonna have to redo that and do a different one. I've got a couple ideas there. And you can see that I went ahead and did the armrests as well. So when I put this on there initially, I didn't have, I had just the dash done, and then I still had my wooden armrests or sills or whatever you want to call these. I still had the wooden ones on here, and while that was okay, it didn't look that great. There were too many different colors going on, or obviously with the silver not being the same color as the aluminum. So the black, the silver, the aluminum, and then this, it was dark brown, almost black, but still is not black. And I definitely didn't want to use the stock pieces with the cheap, already fairly worn out leather that was on it. I didn't want to rewrap them, and figured this made the most sense to just go ahead and complete those, sand on them, and throw those on there. And these are the exact stock pieces that I had on there at the beginning when I first got the Vanderhall. So I still had those to be able to just pull off the wood ones I made and sand these down and throw those on. So this took a little bit longer than I originally thought, but I think the overall look is pretty awesome. So definitely pretty excited about it. Didn't put my heater control whatever vent thing back in here because again, I'm never going to use it. I'm just going to always run heat on, so I'd rather this be available for another switch or something, or dial, or whatever I decide to put here. So for now, nothing. I'm going to put a little plug or something in there, or maybe before I get this buttoned up, just throw another bolt in there just to, so there's not a hole. But I don't want to reroute it all through there, and if I really want to reroute it, I don't want it through the dash, so that if I need to take the dash off again, I don't have to deal with that. So I'm thinking about rerouting it and just making it where I can pull from here, maybe into the AC box here, but then my little CB gets in the way. So I don't know where I'm gonna put it, but I definitely don't want it running through the dash. If I need to take my dash off, it's not quite as difficult. So that's it. That's the final look of the dash, complete and installed. I think it looks way cleaner than before, and you know, I'm pretty excited that the little side armrest areas are gonna match. That's just awesome. So that's gonna do it for today, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace. Also, as a little bonus, while I had all this apart, I solved this problem. Put a little JB weld on these nuts back here so that you can get the screws in and out without having to take everything apart. So I don't know why they don't have these little plastic things in here for these. Like, the plastic things hold on these crazy parts like your hood and everything, but then they want to back the nuts. They want to back this little ignition plate thing that's mostly decorative with nuts. I don't understand. Also, I installed all of the rib nuts everywhere else that I needed them for the hood, so that's fun.
You must be blinded by the lights. We came to shine here. Watch it look daytime in the night. We bring the vibes here.